Hi, everyone. Welcome to House of Lou. I'm your host, Veronica Theodoro. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by St. Louis Art Museum. Today, I'm talking to Danielle Kalish. Danielle is a St. Louis interior designer. She's the owner of Abode by Parkland Interiors, and she's recently introduced a new studio space called Atelier, which we'll hear all about in just a bit. Before founding her design firm, Danielle worked in fashion at Kalish for 15 years. During that time, she traveled extensively for work, and those globetrotting experiences sharpened her knowledge and appreciation for material, proportion, and style. You can see how Danielle weaves her unique background into her design projects for clients. If you're curious to see an example of her work, look no further than the designer's own home in University City, which we wrote about for the magazine just a few years ago. Since I first got to know Danielle, her business has only grown and evolved. I'm excited for you to hear from her, but before we get into our conversation, here's what's been going on in and around my home. Last night, I stopped by the preview party at Link Auction Galleries in the Central West End. Shout out to my friend Jeffrey, who happens to be the decorative arts specialist there. He told me about the preview and encouraged me to go, and so I did. There were a lot of people there. There was music, drinks, appetizers, and I especially enjoyed seeing the items up close before they head to auction. So it was a lot of fun. Link hosts these types of events fairly often, so be sure to check them out the next time you are in the mood to see some beautiful furniture and antiques up close and personal. Last weekend, I went to the movies for the first time in a long time. I can't believe how long it's been. The movie I saw is called Soul on Fire, and it was recommended to me by my esthetician, Donna Marie, who works at The Face and the Body. Thank you, Donna. This was such an incredible movie. I can't stop talking about it. I took my mom to the matinee show at the Chase, and there was not a dry eye in the theater. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but I will say that the movie is based on a true story, and it happened right here in St. Louis, actually. It's based on the story of a Webster Groves family. Those of us who grew up in the 80s, the movie is based in the 80s. Those of us who grew up here at that time will recognize like the spirit and the essence of St. Louis at that time, the characters that inhabited our world. And they just did a beautiful job of painting our city in a very, very positive and true light. And so I just want to recommend this movie, Soul on Fire, to anyone who wants to go to the movies. You will not regret it. KDR hosted Frederick Henry, the CEO of Romo USA, at its showroom a couple of weeks ago for a lunch and learn. I'm a big fan of Romo fabrics. As some of you may recall, I used the Temperley London collab fabric in my living room, and I just love it. Anyway, Frederick talked a lot about the different brands under the Romo umbrella and the various client bases that they're able to serve through these brands. But the one thing that really stood out to me, in addition to everything Frederick had to say, was something that Kevin Kenny mentioned about the showroom. So apparently now interior designers can call KDR and book or reserve office space if they need it for larger meetings with their team or with clients. These spaces are now equipped with large screen televisions and other technologies that facilitate meetings. So the next time you need to gather with your team, consider the fact that KDR now has these office spaces available for designers to book. So I thought that was super cool. I also wanted to mention that Andrew Weil, the executive director of Landmarks Association, announced that he's stepping down from his position at the end of the year. Andrew has been with Landmarks for nearly 2 decades, and under his leadership, he's authored 28 National Register nominations, reinstated Landmarks loan program, and rehabilitated the Hesh House in Soulard, among many other accomplishments. So we wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
We'll be right back.
This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by St. Louis Art Museum. Don't miss Ansang Kiefer Becoming the Sea, a monumental exhibition at the St. Louis Art Museum. As the artist's first American retrospective in more than 20 years, the exhibit features iconic pieces from Kiefer's storied career alongside new, massive, site-specific installations. The exhibition is free and on display through January 25th. Learn more at slam.org. All right, everyone, let's get started with our interview. Danielle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am so curious to know more about your recent trip to the UK. Tell us, what was the purpose of the trip and where did you go? And we'll go from there.
Okay. So I've been looking into this for a few years. I did a lot of international travel over the last 15 years when I was in shoes. But it's different. What I was looking for was different, why I was there. So I just wanted to be on a more purposeful, organized trip that had to do with antiquing.
Okay.
So I've been kind of researching what that might look like. And I found a couple women based in St. Louis, one that owns a travel agent in town called Limitless Planet.
Okay.
And they were really going more for just personal exploration, not necessarily for work, which is different than some of the other group trips I looked into. But I was like, that works for me because I can do my working and they can just be exploring or, doing it for fun. So the trip was planned and organized to fly into London, spend a couple days there, and then go 2.5 hours north to Newark, England.
Okay.
Which is, very small town, nothing really there to write home about, but it hosts a huge flea market every year that is international European vendors. So outside of just British dealers, there's lots of French dealers there, Dutch, you name it, they're represented there. And it's football fields heated 3 times of just white tents with all of their stuff set up.
Oh my God.
So you could be there for days.
For days, I'm
Yes.
sure. Did you buy anything in particular that you want to share with us?
I did. I bought all kinds of goodies. So I bought the most on that trip during that international market. So we were there for 2 days.
Okay.
And that was like the bulk reason of going and really wanting to be able to take private transfer there because it's quite a drive out of the city, figure out how to navigate where we were staying, all the things. And I bought, of course, a mix of things, but furniture-wise, I bought around 7 or 8 pieces. And they're all from French vendors. So lots of Louis V things, marble tops, really great quality. And I am shipping them back. They won't be here till probably mid to late January, depending on when they actually leave the UK.
Okay.
But then I brought 2 big suitcases for smalls. So I was very edited in what I brought back, but some art, some decor pieces, just like really special that felt like a good representation of my style, the shop, and a little peek into the trip and what these could look like in the future.
So we will see all of this in abode sometime in the new year.
Yeah.
Do you plan to do more of this type of sourcing for the shop?
That's my goal.
Okay.
So the interesting part about being in St. Louis is that we're not near a port. So a lot of antique dealers that all of us designers buy from are in Atlanta, in New Orleans. They're easy access to ports where things are going to be coming over.
Right.
So we're a little bit of a hike when you talk about, okay, it's made it to the US. Well, now we have to get to the middle of America. So that's another truck system and getting it to St. Louis. So that's just going to be my experience to see what is the cost of that. And then how do we make the cost more efficient by buying more? You can buy a full container, you can do a half. I didn't do any of that this trip. I started with this little more than a handful to kind of see how it all plays out with tariffs, with
Right.
converting pounds to dollars,
Yeah.
all of the shipping stuff. How does it fare? And am I still priced competitively with these other dealers that we are buying from in other locations, even though it's a little bit further to get to us?
So
So
is that something that you'll be able to determine after items have sold, or did you sort of figure that out before purchasing?
I have rough numbers,
Okay.
especially when I was shopping, of like, okay, and I met with a shipper for like 2 hours of one of the days I was there was shipping interviewing and like the non-glamorous side,
Yes.
meeting all these guys that are like running the shipping yard and being like, I don't know what I'm doing. Pretend this is shipping for dummies. Like, how do I get this stuff back? What is the cost? How does it work? So digging into that and then kind of backing into, okay, I know I've like reserve these pieces at these vendors. These are the costs. He's kind of giving me shipping breakdowns. Do I think that I can still have any margin left and make it make sense?
Right.
So I feel good about it. The only wild card is going to be once it gets to the US, then depending on where tariffs are,
Right.
that payment happens when it arrives.
Oh, got
So right
it.
now it's at
Okay.
10%,
Mhm.
which is higher than it's typically been, but manageable. But that could change
That could
because we're
change.
3 months out from it being here.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and then I have feelers out. A lot of the design community is so amazing in St. Louis, and designers are looking for this outlet.
Okay.
So I've put feelers of like, these are things that I'm buying, like that I
Oh,
like,
smart. Yeah.
while I was over there, just kind
Mhm.
of like, is this, I know most of their styles well, and a lot of them that shop at the store are similar aesthetic, I feel like, to what I like to purchase, just to make sure there's some interest out there with themselves,
Exactly.
with clients, like if they want to put it in their collection of things to then source out to clients or however they want to work it. So I think I'll have a home for them. It's just 7 or 8 pieces isn't as big of an investment as bringing back like 100.
Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of, I just have to see how to scale it, how quickly, and get the reception of, do all the smalls and furniture sell out quickly
Right.
when it arrives?
Okay. So TBD to a certain
TBD.
degree.
Yeah.
So you haven't just stopped at a boat. You recently introduced Atelier,
Yes.
which is in the same neighborhood,
Yep.
in the Demund neighborhood. But the spirit of this concept location or gallery space, I
Yep.
should say, is a little different. Tell us the why for Atelier.
Okay. So first it started out of, if you've been in a boat, you know that it's tiny. So it started to be, oh, I have these other furniture pieces, or I have this great art or vessels or things I want to showcase, and I don't know if I really have the space layout to do so. So I was going to do like a warehouse space or just an overflow space to hold things that is not my house, because everyone in my family is a little bit sick of me, as you can imagine. Every room is just like random furniture
Yeah.
and art, and they're like, are we keeping, what are we doing? So my same landlord has a little space around the corner from that laundromat. It's kind
Mhm.
of a little standalone. It's also tiny. But I was like, oh, this is cute. This could be interesting if we just paint this all like we did, that pointing Pharaoh and ball color floors, walls,
Mhm.
ceiling, which is very different than the other space. It's like a clean white gallery feel. It just lets the pieces speak for themselves,
Right.
and it's very subtle and quiet.
Mhm.
And I think it will hold, and it has so far. We've opened one time, which was for our 1 year.
Right.
And it was very thoughtfully leading up to that. I was reupholstering antiques, sourcing new antique and vintage. And then I partnered with a friend of mine who's an artist out of KC to showcase her art. So it was a combination of almost like an art gallery opening
Yes.
and also really thoughtful, curated pieces that you could shop in a feel that is very different than Abode, but in the same context. Lots of similar aesthetic, but
Okay.
just showcased in a very different way, and a little bit more of that special one and done feel.
Got it.
I think I'm going to do 1 to 2 pop-ups a month, and I'm going to lead up to that by rearranging and recurating everything each time.
Oh, cool. So it'll be really fresh
Yeah.
every time you host one of these events. So you must really love bringing old furniture back to life.
Love it.
Yes.
I feel like old things are just built better.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I still gravitate towards, I'm like everyone else, a mix. Like you're
Mhm.
not going to
Yeah.
have everything in your house be an antique. And that feels also not collected and interesting. But I find myself gravitating towards putting at least one vintage or antique piece in every client project, and my house, every room has
Right.
something.
Yeah, mine
And if
too.
it doesn't, it feels odd. It's like sterile
Absolutely.
and not interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering how your background in fashion inspires you, has informed your aesthetic for interiors. And if you could just talk to us a little bit about your decision to pivot full time now into
Yeah.
interior design.
Actually, the backgrounds have more in common than I thought they would.
Mhm.
So when I was going to school and even before, so I was always really torn between the two worlds. If you ever talk to my parents or my sister, they would be like, this has been an ongoing debate of like what to study, what to do.
Yeah.
I was always torn, but at the end of the day, fashion just felt like I understood the business better. I felt like I knew a path and I was a little bit more like, this feels right for right now. So that's where I went direction wise. And I ended up at Kalish, which was Brown Shoe previously, right out of school. So I interned for them.
Fabulous.
I did all kinds of different jobs. But the minute I went in the door and started meeting designers, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I started shadowing people and working my way up in the design field there. And it's really affected everything that I do. I feel like I learned so much. It's very technical. Shoes are unlike anything else because we
Interesting.
are wearing them
Yeah.
all day. They have to hold up. They have so many different fit standards and just like compliance things. You're in factories. You're really understanding that they're handmade.
Mm.
Even at the lowest price point, someone is touching your shoe all the way through.
Oh, interesting.
So there's definitely this like craftsmanship and people that have been in the business since they were kids, like their dads were cobblers, like all these guys that I was learning to make shoes from were doing it since they were 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
So there's such a history, and it's actually a very small industry of craft. You meet so many people from different brands the more you get involved.
Yeah.
And you do so much international travel.
Mhm.
So that influences my aesthetic and style
Yes.
so
I
much
can see that.
in
Absolutely.
fashion and now in
Yeah.
home. So that's, then once I started taking clients and I was a little hesitant to do so because I was like, do these skills transfer? What do I need to learn? A lot about interiors.
Yes.
They're very different, but very similar in lots of ways. But I've gained a lot of knowledge and confidence by just doing.
Right.
Doing my own houses led to doing clients, doing friends first and family that trusted me. You can't start unless you start somewhere.
Is there something about the interiors industry or design in general that has surprised you?
Everything. I feel like that's the most fun part. I was in shoes for 15 years and again, right out of school. And I felt like I had mastered it. Probably hadn't. And if you talk to my boss, she'd be like, there was more to do and more to master. But I felt ready for a challenge that was learning something new every day. I feel like the whole entire industry is just always changing. There's always new creators, new vendors, new fabrics. Every week you could go to a presentation of something new.
I think what makes it so creative too,
So
right?
creative. Yeah. And there's no rules. It feels like people are gravitating towards out of the box colors or using vintage and antique and not just buying everything from Crate and Barrel. It's a fun time to be in design because people are willing to take risks.
What would you say are some of the shop's best-selling items?
That's such a good question because I think what's interesting is we've gone into full lifestyle. And I think that,
And what do you mean by that for those who may not?
okay, so we started mostly as antique and vintage and some new, but mostly international brand home.
Okay.
So it would be like art or decor or plates, bowl, anything for home. We did a handbag line this fall that's almost sold out.
Fabulous.
We had some clothing that we're building into.
Okay.
And it came naturally to me because,
Sure.
of course, after 6 months of not, I was like, I miss fashion. We need fashion. And it's such a neighborhood shop for Demond. It's the only retail shop on the block that is an easy place for people to pop in and pick up a gift
Mhm.
or grab something for a hostess themselves, whatever it may be. And you're not always shopping for home. So
Right.
it was just a natural extension. I love when someone checks out exactly how I imagine them to. And it's like something antique and vintage for their house, a sweater, a candle, and like a card or something.
Okay.
It's so balanced. It really is like touching all aspects of their life.
And so tell us a little bit more about the fashion brands that you're bringing in
Yeah.
and what's the overall aesthetic of the fashion component?
Very classic, but
Okay.
with a twist, kind of similar to how I like to dress. I feel like I'm always just wearing denim with some sort of interesting top or a blazer or a sweater in the fall, layers. We have Your Friend's Apartment Vintage does our
Oh,
secondhand rack
wow.
in the
Oh,
shop.
fab.
Yeah, so
Okay.
she's been with us pretty much since the beginning. We did a
Ooh,
pop-up together. It went so well. I was
awesome.
like, let's have a rack all the
Yeah.
time.
Great stuff.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So we have new and old. So
Okay.
she runs the secondhand side and just always changes it up. And then I'm still finessing what are the brands going to be. Right now we started with 2 brands from LA that are a little bit better of a price point, like 200 and under.
Okay.
Flat White is the name of one of them. And they did a really great smock dress in cream and black, midi length, easy to wear with boots or wear with sandals, style a million ways. And we carried 2 or 3 sweaters from them. And we have some new things that'll start trickling in. We're playing around with what price points we want to carry because we want it to be a range.
And so with Atelier, Abode, and your personal clients, how are you making it work?
Great question. Hanging on by whatever I can grab
Yeah.
onto. I really feel like it's happened organically. I opened the shop while still at Kalish, and
Okay.
I wanted to use my corporate salary to fund my first round of inventory. So I think when people are opening businesses, we should all be more honest with each other about what it takes because it's
Mhm.
a lot of grit and sacrifice and doing lots of things at once
Right.
to get to what eventually is this going to look like and how do we create balance? Because right now there's no balance. There's lots of work.
Yeah.
But I have great girls in the shop. I knew right away with young kids and already have been in a stressful work environment, working lots of hours and traveling, that I didn't want to be tied to the shop every single day of the week.
Right.
So we're open only Thursday through Sunday. I'm usually there 1 or 2 days a week at least during open hours, and I'm there pretty much every day at some point doing
Right.
something like
Okay.
merchandising, restyling the shop, pricing things, whatever it may be. And then clients, just like when I was at Kalish, I'm still just being thoughtful about the clients that I'm taking.
Okay.
So making sure that they're the right fit. I have to be a little bit more thoughtful about how I spend time on both sides. And
Okay.
making sure we're both a good fit for each other. The scope of work, can I handle it with what I have going on with the shop? Are we aesthetically aligned?
And how has that turned out?
Right now, I have 2 or 3 bigger, like more like full construction, which are
Oh
more
my
time
gosh.
consuming.
Yes.
Yes. One is a full house, and then the couple other are smaller, like a kitchen and bath.
Okay.
And then there's probably 5 other that are just like soft furnishings.
Got it.
So could be drapery, paint colors, all of those
But
things.
still time
So
consuming.
time
For
consuming.
sure.
There is one girl whenever I'm doing kitchen and bath, and someday I hope I can talk about her more because she does a lot of other things on the side too. So she's not full time for me,
Okay.
but she's a very talented technical designer, and I do all of my kitchen and bath work with her.
And so do you have a favorite area to work in of the many hats that you wear?
I think it changes like every
Okay.
week because I keep having this conversation of like, would I go one way or the other
Yes.
eventually
Right.
or narrow it down? But I like to stay busy. Like we were saying, a challenge and like
Yes.
feeling a little stagnant. I
Mhm.
never feel like that right
No.
now because it's like, okay, the shop looks great and it's merchandise and it's perfect. Now what? So then I'm like back to like a client project and
Right.
picking fabrics and doing all, and so then that's feeling good.
Do you see any trends in home right now that stand out to you?
I'm just inspired by the trends leaning towards non-trend, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. I feel like people have been trying to label certain styles and put people in a box. I think a more interesting space is hard to pinpoint. I had an older gentleman come in the shop yesterday and he's like, I can't put my finger on like what your shop what is the aesthetic or like
Yeah.
what is the and he's like, I take it you take that as a compliment. And I was like, very much
Wow.
so.
Yeah.
Like that, you nailed it. If you can't put your finger on it, then I've done my job because that mix and collected feel feels not like a trend, but feels like people being more intentional about their spaces and letting their personalities show through and taking their time and finding things they love and going away from just feeling like, oh, I bought a new house, I better go furnish it all immediately. So I feel like that's what I'm gravitating towards.
And you really do have to be so patient
You do.
because I do think the magic in that are those times when you're maybe not even looking for something, but it
Exactly.
just sort of happens.
Ends up defining your whole space.
Yeah,
And you're like, I
absolutely.
wasn't even
I
looking
wasn't
for
even
this
looking.
item.
Yeah, and it's like if you work too quickly,
Yeah.
you kind of like you don't give yourself the chance to have those moments.
Agree.
But not easy to do.
I think culturally we feel like we are on social media and everyone thinks everyone has everything figured out
So
and
true.
perfect and their house is done.
No.
And it takes so long. You don't see the years and years and years that somebody took to
Yes.
do that. It's not an overnight. And I feel like clients feel that way. Like, I want to get this room just like all the way done quickly. And it's like, it's probably not going to be super quick if you really do it the way you're seeing in the magazine that you love. It's
Exactly.
going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of home, you had a very special visitor from Homeworthy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tell us how that happened.
They actually found me because of you guys shooting the house.
Oh my gosh. See,
So
print lens.
print lives. I was like, got an email, and sometimes you get reached out to for opportunities and they end up being like, we'd love to have you and it'll be this much for us
Yeah,
to
right.
feature you. And I'm not in a spending unless it's an inventory. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. So I got the Homeworthy thing and I was like, here we go. I'm so excited, but it's going to be something that you
But
have.
there's going to be a catch.
There's a catch. What is it? And there wasn't. I met this lovely woman who works for them. She pretty much picks whoever's going to be chosen to be featured. And I was like, how did you find me? And she was like, well, I really look at prints and local magazines in all big cities. And then I start digging in.
Where do you like to shop? Anywhere in particular?
For St. Louis, I love cool stuff, period, like everybody
Yes.
else. And Ronnie was on the England trip.
Oh, he was?
He was. He was friends with one of the women that helped put it on. And so
Was he also antiquing?
he was buying mostly smalls. And he's like, I'm not sure I'm going to get it because he does so much estate sailing.
Yes.
And he's just known in St. Louis, like you go to him if you're going to sell things in your house.
Absolutely.
So he's got kind of furniture on lock as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But he was just lovely in person and we'd never connected until the trip.
Fun.
So, and I'm a huge fan. I feel like I buy so many things for clients and myself there. It's a gem.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah. And Jason Home in Chicago. I was still in shoes at the time and Bergdorf's gave him the top floor, like home section at one point to do a like one and done. It blew me away. It was just aesthetically so pleasing.
Where would you like to see your business in the next 2 years or so?
I would love to have this arm of importing figured out and be a legitimate piece of the business. I'd also love it to be offered on e-com so that it's sustainable within St. Louis, but also I feel in order to do that, it has to reach more people.
Right.
I would love to continue the local brick and mortar and having a physical space in St. Louis.
And we love that.
It's so special and shopping in person is very different than shopping online. And I personally like to be in person. So if I can sustain keeping that open, keeping it stocked the way I want and doing it well, I would love for that to be thriving. I still like it to be small and cozy, but I think if we could layer in a few other pieces and have some areas where we can have more product out, we definitely have the ideas for it. So could be potential there.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, this was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course.
And I'll see you in the shop sometime soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks. And now on to These Views, the 13th annual tribute fashion show presented by Mother Model Management will take place on November 22nd at the Sovereign. Fashion designer Jason Wu will be headlining the event. Wu is the designer who dressed First Lady Michelle Obama for both of her inaugural balls. Interior designer Nate Berkus will be in town on December 6th to headline the Jewish Book Fest and speaker series. Nate recently published a new coffee table book titled Foundations, where he shares the essentials needed to create spaces that feel both beautiful and personal. Tickets are on sale now. And this year's holiday historic home tours will soon be underway. We've made it easy for you to get the scoop on all of them. We wrote a story about the tours for the print issue of St. Louis Magazine, and I'm linking to it in our show notes. I hope you find some time to get out there and enjoy beautiful St. Louis architecture. Thank you for listening to House of Lou. Our episodes drop once a month, so be sure to follow us and share the episode with your friends. Be in touch, subscribe to our design and home newsletter at stlmag.com/newsletters, and follow along on Instagram at stlewismag. And you can follow me at VTLookbook. If you like what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you choose to listen. We'll see you next time. And just remember, there's so much to see in St. Louis if you know where to look. This is a production of St. Louis Magazine, produced by Kylie Green Lemoyne, edited and booked by Veronica Theodoro, and audio editing by Brendan Shanahan.